What was the reason HDB prices picked up in the last 2 years? Next up, HDB MOP. And for us to take a look at that and sort of try and derive a conclusion, I've used Pongo, okay? And I picked up several clusters to illustrate the point. And why did I choose Pongo is because they have MOPs every other month, every other year. So very, very easy for me to pick up some case studies. So I start first from clusters that MOP recently, all the way to clusters that MOP in 2012, right, before the cooling measures came about. And then after that we piece them all together and to see if we have some sort of a conclusion. And this is where maybe we can do this exercise together, and you can see whether or not you can spot some of the trends. So Waterway Brooks MOP last year, right? We sold a unit there. It's perhaps our best performing video still on our channel. Prices from MOP up to today have increased. Okay, if you can see the general trend, it is going upwards. Pongo Waves MOP 2018. Okay, as you can see, it sort of like tapered off slightly, or maybe even dipped slightly between 2018. But again, once you hit the pandemic period, the COVID period, it started to move upwards. Pongo Sapphire MOP a bit earlier, 2016, for this level, right straight, and then slowly pick up in the last 2 years, together with the rest of the market. Coriolanus MOP in 2014, and here similarly you could see a general trend of it sort of flat slash downwards, and then in the last 2 years pick up. And as the further and further back you go, the more drastic the trend, and the more obvious a trend start to appear. And who can give me the right answer on what kind of trend line do you see, or what kind of trend line does this look like? So you see this one, it picked up to MOP at around the 2012 mark, and then it just went under until thankfully over the last 2 years, I think the owners of Sundial have the pandemic to thank for their prices recovering. Okay, so picked up in the last 2 years. And then the last one is Edgedale Green, that MOP in 2011, right? And this one is also very interesting. It sort of saw prices coming up. So those that actually waited for maybe half a year after, or maybe 1 month after MOP, as a matter of fact, fetch a higher price. But if they miss that point, then the prices just took a nosedive downwards, and like everyone else, picked up in the last 2 years. But now, the critical question to ask ourselves is, what was the reason HDB prices picked up in the last 2 years? Right? For those of you who follow, you know my answer to that. But those of you who don't, who are joining us for the first time, the last 2 years, had the pandemic not happened, do I think the prices would have picked up? My answer is no. A hard no. Okay, because HDB supply is still very, very strong. We have 30,000 HDB sitting as MOP this year, right? And if with especially in an area like Pongo, which I believe we should have about maybe 5,000 MOP units a year, right? Don't quote me, it's just an estimate or something that is at the back of my head. I think I have that number somewhere. 5,000 units hitting its MOP. Where would the demand mainly be flowing to? Right? Usually to the MOP units. Would there still be people buying such units? Yes, there will. But will there be as many people buying these units if, let's say, you just look at the market as a whole? You look at the market as a whole, how the demand is segregated, right? We have upgraders, right? The people that just want to change HDB to HDB 4 room to 5 room, 3 room to 4 room, right? We have those people. We have first timers, right? And we have, as a matter of fact, mainly these two groups of people lah. First timers generally, what kind of options do they have? They can either buy BTO, they can buy resale, right? So today they cannot really buy BTO because they don't want to wait 6 years, which is why they come into the resale market. The resale is already their second choice. And when they come into the resale market, they know that they potentially might lose money. And what is that? Right, is the right word conventional wisdom? Probably, yeah. Conventional wisdom is to then buy a slightly younger HDB so that you don't get killed by lease decay. So which ones will they pick? They probably will pick the newly MOP ones because they offer a longer remaining lease. So then these particular units would then fall really a lot in terms of the priority lah, to the bottom of the priority list, right? But today they are quite, their prices have picked up quite a bit, mainly because first of all, everybody, the price have come up. So no choice, these guys also, the owners also not silly, they also will then raise their prices. So in the absence of all these extraordinary circumstances, I do not think the prices will have come up. So is it right to assume prices will continue to go in this direction? I've answered that at the start of the video. If you've joined us, my answer is no. Okay. And so yes, a very quick crash course on HDB fundamentals and where do I see HDB prices going. Right, and if you notice over in the long term, as you zoom out, notice how similar HDL green, if you plug this right and then you go over here, it just trends very, very nicely together with the general HDB price trends. Or even the other ones that you see, they follow more or less exactly the same as all the others. So you see the more recent ones, they look like at MOP, after that the price go up. It's because they fall within this cycle. At MOP, then the price go up, right? The cycle over here. So what's the conclusion? The conclusion is prices follow general HDB price trends. Understandably so. Why? Same thing in the resale market. There's a lot of people calling the shots, and a lot of people with different objectives when selling their houses. So it's very hard to have any sort of price control for houses unless we see what we see today as a whole, the entire market goes upwards. It will revert back to the old traditional, the old kind of trends, I feel, once the government sorts out all these construction issues and the BTO supply comes back online, coupled with all the MOP supply coming into the market. We will I predict with high certainty that we will go back towards the 1.6 to 1.9 kind of price trends, which is very level. Yeah, very, very level. And so when prices are level, right, is it a right time to sell early? To be very honest, if we take out what happened in the last 2 years, the conclusion is you basically should try and sell as early as you can in terms of when you hit its MOP lah, based on the data, right? For example, right, people that hit their MOP pre-2020 lor, we have our Pongo waves. You see, Pongo waves, you MOP here, you wait, you don't stand to benefit at all. Pongo Sapphire, MOP over here, if you wait, you don't stand to benefit at all, excluding what happened in the last 2 years, right? The scariest is people like Sundial, right? If they MOP, as they waited, their prices crashed. A good, quite scary. It came from 550 PSF all the way down to 350 PSF. Wow, that is a good close to 40% decrease in PSF. Quite scary. Yeah, so that's why I think the Sundial and Coral and HDL Green people are super duper thankful for what happened in the last 2 years. So conclusion, right? Again, while there's no sweet spot time to sell, over in the long term, it will just trend together with all the other HDB prices. And taking out what happened in the last 2 years, the data points to the fact that you should sell as soon as you can when the property hits MOP. Will it face the same issue as what I mentioned earlier in terms of valuation? The answer is yes, but the trouble here is that HDB valuations are a huge black box. Till today, none of us in the market can figure out how HDB do valuation. All the more, reach this point in time, right? All us agents are even more confused because there are properties that none of us expect the valuations to match, and they match. And there are properties whereby we expect valuations to match. In the end, the valuation come out, don't match. And so we are all confused. Nobody knows how they do it. Yes, they hire like professional valuers and things like that, but they keep this thing in a black box. And for those of you who have followed us from long time ago, I call this black box the government's invisible hand with how they control HDB prices, right? Because you have to buy already, seller, buyer agree on a price and then go to valuation. Yes, the HDB will send some dude down to your house to value the house, but after that, the result comes out in on your computer screen, and nobody knows how that was derived. And so yeah, right, will it face the same issue? Yes. Is there a way around it? Will waiting 6 months with new valuations, with new transactions coming up, help you with the valuation? I don't know. It's not a given, right? So it's why, don't try to time the market, right? Instead, what can you do? This is where I jump into case studies to share with you what some of my clients, what we have done, what's the result that come out of it, and more importantly, how do we go about reaching that conclusion? What's the kind of thought process that we have gone through in our heads? So if you are very lucky, you are in sort of a similar situation as them, you can adopt this for your own use.